Hey guys, it's Adrian here, and in this tutorial, I will show you how to add details to your normal map by using ID map. Okay, so in here we have this object. As you can see here, details on it, and if we go ahead and we want to further refine this object and add a bunch of more cool details on the surface, we have to go to the subobject level and extrude and intrude all these polygons. It's time consuming and it takes a lot of time, refinements, creasing, and add turbo smooth and etc. But what we can do here is that we can use the ID map and add in here, we can add a floating geometry and use it as an ID map. Then we can send it to Substance Painter. Then we're gonna use the ID map as a mask. Then we add a height value to it, negative or positive. It's very easy, very straightforward method. It's speed of your workflow by 10 times. All right. So I'm gonna demonstrate just that. I'm gonna create a box like that. I'm gonna push it inside. Just something like that. Then I'm gonna duplicate this box in a row like 12 times. Okay, let's select all these boxes. Then I'm gonna attach it. Quick attach all the boxes together. All right. Okay, after we satisfied with the results, I'm gonna go and create a high poly version of this box. So let's add a chamfer modifier, go to iterating, change it to quad, put a 0.1 amount and zero out the tension. Add a turbo modifier on top, so we have a high poly version of this beauty. All right, as you can see, it's very fast. Imagine just create all these details on our geometry. It takes a lot of time. You have to select, create segments and select all these, polygon faces and extrude them out. Just time consuming. So let's add a bunch of more details on our surface here. Let's create for example, a cylinder, push it inside, convert it to editable poly, insert this cylinder like that, add a segment, push it inside a bit more, add turbo smooth to create a high poly version. All right. So we have this as well. So we have this cylinder, we have this box in here. So let's add a little bit more detail in here as well. So let's see how it will look on a normal map. On a grid, let's create a box like that. I push it inside like that. Go to the front view, come to editable poly, go to the vertex. Let's move the vertex to the right. Okay, let's add our beloved chamfer modifier. Quad 0.1 tension 0 and add a turbo modifier on top. All right, let's move it out of it. Yeah, it's look good. Move inside a bit. Good. Okay, so we have to export our main mesh as a high poly because we want to bake the normal map. I select the high poly and export it as a high poly. Export it out. Export it as a FBX or OBJ, doesn't really matter. Then I'm gonna select all of them and export it as a different mesh. I call this mesh ID. But before I do that, I have to do two things. I have to rename all the meshes, and rename it to a same name, like box underline high. Rename this cylinder box underline high, this one box underline high, because all these meshes should have the same name. And box underline high. Okay. Then we have to add a material ID to each one of these details. For example, this box I want to be an extrusion positive value in our height. Maybe this cylinder I want to be negative. Have a different ID for each one of these will help a lot in the long run. So I go and create a material. I create a multi-material in here, multi-subobject. Click OK and add a bunch of just a standard simple material. For example, I create a red. Let's create a red, blue, and yellow. So I create 3 or 4 different ID in here. So this one is blue. This one is, let's change ID number 3 to yellow. Something like that. Okay. Now let's just add a standard material, green material in here. All right, then I'm gonna select all of our type object and I'm gonna apply it. Then I'm gonna go to each one of these. I'm gonna select the cylindrical shape. Let's change the ID set to be like 2. So let's change this one as well ID to be number 3. And our main object, high poly object in here, this is gray and this is ID number 4. All right, let's select this as well. Let's just be sure, go to the editable poly, select all the elements and set it at the set ID number 1. All right, cool. So I'm gonna select all the object in the or scene. I'm gonna export it as our ID map. Export it as ID. All right. Let's export it out. Now it's time to find our low poly object. This is our low poly. Then I'm gonna export this one as a low poly. Export it, export selected, and low poly. Be sure to rename all of your low poly, high poly correctly. I have this box underline low. That's my name. Awesome. Then I'm gonna go ahead and import the low poly in our Substance Painter. All right. Let's go to texture setting. Let's bake our normal map first. I go to the normal map, add a output size to 2K. Let's load our high poly in here, not the ID map, just high poly because we want to bake the normal map. Let's just max frontal distance, something like 0.05 usually give me the best results. Subsampling all the way up, match by mesh name and bake. Unless we're gonna wait it out to see the result on a normal map and then we're gonna bake the ID map. Then we're gonna add a height value to our ID and bring out those beautiful details that we want. All right, let's see. As you can see here, we have our normal map, beautiful. On our low poly, everything looks good. Then I'm gonna go ahead and bake our ID map. I'm gonna deselect normal, select ID, and then in here I'm gonna select a different FBX file. I'm gonna select our high ID. All right. So leave everything at default, low, high, suffix match by mesh name, sampling 8 by 8, and let's hit the bake. And color source is material color, correct? Let's hit the bake and let's see what we get. All right, waiting. So as you can see here, our main object is gray. Awesome. Now we have our red, the box red. We have our blue, and we have our yellow. So far, so good. Awesome. So I'm gonna head back to our layer, and then I'm gonna add a fill layer, add a height map to it. Fill layer, deselect, deactivate all the material except height. Let's right click and the mask color selection and select or red color. So as you can see here, we have our color right here. Exciting stuff. So as you can see, it's very jittery, very bad. Don't be it's completely fine. If we increase the tolerance, something like 0.5, get very better results in here. And if you want to be more, softer on the edges, I can go and add a filter, add a blur. Let's decrease our blur, something like 0.1. 0.1 lets me add something like that. It will look very good. All right, awesome. You want to add a blur effect and to have some smoother results in here. Beautiful. Let's duplicate the fill layer. Let's go to the mask and mask with color selection again. And this time I'm gonna pick a different color. I'm gonna pick the blue. I'm gonna put the height to the negative value. There we go. Out of the gate, this beautiful effect right here. If I want to be more crisp, so I get rid of the blur like that. Let's duplicate this one as well. Let's select our other color, yellow. And then we get this beautiful effect in here. How cool is that? It's very awesome, beautiful. Speed up your workflow by 10 times. It's awesome method. All right. I hope you like this video. Be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.